This is part 5 of a 6-part masterclass series on preserving the harvest from your garden. If you're like most gardeners, you think about preservation when your counters are overflowing with tomatoes and zucchini. But successful food gardeners think differently. They see preservation as the foundation of growing vegetables, not an afterthought. Planning your preservation goals before planting your first seed helps you choose the right varieties for your favorite preservation methods, grow appropriate quantities so you're not overwhelmed or disappointed, space out your harvests for manageable processing sessions, and identify crops you can store without processing at all. Throughout this series, you'll learn how this foundation-first approach transforms both your garden and your pantry. We're excited to share this information with you and help you take another step toward true self-sufficiency and food security for your family. Let's get started.
So secret number 3, having a harvest preservation system not only helps you save time and energy preparing food year-round, but allows you to be creative, putting meals together in unusual ways for delicious and unexpected meals in just minutes. So let me tell you about my amazing parents. I discovered so much from them. I am blessed that they saw the value of fresh food. They were amazing at putting healthy meals on the table every day of my childhood, even when we were young and on a very tight budget. So my parents are, I can't believe how blessed I was that they, at a very young age, instilled in me the idea that if we always had fresh, healthy food, then we were doing well, then we were healthy, and we felt good. And I enjoyed that time outside with my parents, and I enjoyed that time cooking with my parents. So if you are here today and you're sharing this with the loved ones and your young loved ones that you have, you're my hero, because you are producing the next generation of people who are excited about health and vitality, and you're setting them up for a lifetime of good health. The reason why we're here is that my parents instilled these values in. So if you're doing that for your kids, you are a hero. They will tell you someday that you are their hero. All right. And I'm telling you now because I love you. All right. So my parents, like I said, they were amazing putting meals on the table every day, even when the budget was really tight. And I think at one point, our weekly budget for the 4 of us, for all of our food for the week, was $25. And I think with inflation, that might be something like feeding a family of 4 on $100 a week right now. So 2 things happen when you're on that kind of tight budget. The first is that you have a very clear system where you can see exactly what the budget is and how it's being spent to make sure you're on track. That's my mom. She loves organization. She's really good at making things visible in all the what all the meals were, when we're going to eat them, and what we're going to do with the leftovers. And here's an image of my fridge here with all of my family. And, we have a ton of people in the house. And so we put up these Post-it notes for each other that say things like, hey, this is what's fresh this week. Eat this up before it goes bad. And so we make sure it's visible, and we're saying, this is what's available. Make sure you eat it so it doesn't get lost in the fridge. The second thing that happens when you're on a strict budget is that you get really creative. Sometimes you don't have all the ingredients that you need for a recipe, and you have to figure out a creative substitution. And that's my dad. He used to take recipes as a suggestion, but he just makes stuff up on the spot. And this was before the explosion of cable and cooking shows. This was before the internet. There was no Googling what's for dinner. We had these little recipe cards, and that was it. Anyway, one time I remember he was making a stir fry, and the recipe called for a honey mustard mixture. But we were all out of honey. And I saw him grab the grape jelly. And I was a kid, and I was like, Dad, that's so gross. You're going to mix mustard and grape jelly? Ew. And he just smiled and laughed, and he said, it's going to be awesome. You just see. Because what he knew was that honey is sweet and a little thick in texture. And guess what? So is grape jelly. And as I sat there that night, putting that first bite of stir fry in my mouth, I was a little bit timid. And he told me why he knew it would be good. And he told me the mysteries of meal, and the mysteries of all of this became a little bit clearer to me, the mysteries of meal planning and recipe making. And I started to think that my dad was kind of a magician in the kitchen. So when I created my 7-step harvest in the meals preservation system, I combined these 2 lessons from my parents. from my mom, making things visible so you can easily reach your goals without a lot of effort and nothing goes to waste. And number 2, finding creativity within the system so that you don't get bored eating the same thing over and over. You can become a flavor ninja just like my dad, and it's easier than you might think. So let me introduce you to my 7-step process, and you're going to see how a little bit more about this flavor ninja process. Okay, so the 7-step harvest into meals preservation system. So the first step is you want to set your goals. And like any goals, you want them to be smart, right? You want them to be specific so that you can see it, measurable, you can quantify it, achievable, challenging, but realistic, and whatever relevant, whatever works for you, and time-bound, done by a certain date. So far we've been talking about different goals, like rate-based goals. What are the staples that you want to have on hand? How much do you need for the year? And then when are you going to actually start to think about preserving those? So setting those big staple goals. What are your goals? What do you want on your shelves so that you know you're stocked for the winter? And most important part of this is to make those goals visible, like my mom does, right? So making sure that wherever your goals are, posting them so you know, I got to take care of this goal. The second thing that you want to start to do is quantify those goals with a harvest log. What's a harvest log? So you may or may not have a garden. And so if you have a garden, I highly recommend a harvest log. And what it does is it tells you how many plants you're growing and how much you harvest from those plants and when. And if you have a garden this year for the first time, I recommend that you sit down and once a week, you write down how much you harvested. And you can make a guess too, like if you don't remember, if you're just getting started, go back and remember the last couple of weeks. Okay, I harvested 2 bunches of kale, 3 bunches of this, whatever. Write it down and document it because it's going to be helpful to know how much you harvested. Now, if you don't have a garden, that's totally fine. You can also do this from the farmer's market. Take note of what's available at the farmer's market, which weeks of the year, so that next year it's going to be useful to remember what came into peak season and when. So David was one of my students and said how big of a difference just one of my ideas made. He implemented this harvest log idea, and it's helped him figure out when the different fruits and vegetables are all ripening throughout the year. And then he uses this information to even out his food production throughout the year. So tracking it your first year helps you know what's going to happen next year, because every year the seasons always unfold pretty much the same way. Yeah, weather's a little bit different, but every year the dates are about the same. So the third step is to create your future harvest plan. So you're quantifying this year what's available, when it's available, how much is available, so that now you can create next year a plan. You have your staples that you set goals for in your first step. Now you can create a future plan for all next year, and you can create a plan to harvest all of that from your garden if you like. So how much harvest is expected per plant? These are all numbers that you can find. How many plants do you need to grow to match those preservation goals? When are you going to harvest and how much? So this is the magic, is really linking your garden to your preservation plan. And this is one of my students. In case you're wondering, how much can you really grow and how much can you preserve? This is Jibe. She says in just 36 days, that's like a little over a month. She grew close to $600 worth of produce in her garden. Weekly, she's averaging 8 pounds of fresh greens, chard, and kale. So you can run the numbers and find out what are your staples and how much can you grow so that you can set up your harvest plan for next year, right? Now, this is where it gets fun. This is where we start talking about the food preservation system that we talked about earlier. You're going to divide your weekly harvest into your meal plan. So now this is the moment that we talked about earlier where you open your fridge and you pull everything out of your fridge every week. All right, on a Sunday, if it makes sense to do it on a Sunday, pull everything out of your fridge. And the first thing you're going to do is make a meal plan for the week. And so you're going to set aside some of that food that you're going to create meals for the week. And then the rest that you're not using, you're going to preserve for later. We'll talk about that in another step. So now you meal prep for the week. You spend a couple hours and you cook everything for the week. And this is where you become a flavor ninja. So one of the things that I like to do, a good weekly meal plan, is I'll batch all the basic ingredients ahead of time and then have all my staples ready to go. And then I add different flavors each day. Here's what I mean by that. An example, I will cook a huge batch of soup. Soup is an amazing thing to boost your immunity, boosting your immunity with some soup. I keep it really simple, vegetable soup, very little herbs, very little flavor, just some salt and pepper. I create a big batch of soup. The first day I have some soup. The second day, I can pull that soup out and I can take a scoop of the vegetables out, and I can I've maybe also batched some rice the previous day as well for the week. Now I can fry up some fried rice, take the add some soy sauce, add some different flavorings, some ginger, maybe some orange, and make up an amazing stir fry from all the ingredients from my soup. And do you see how this works? The flavor ninja part? And then the next day, I still have the soup, the big pot of soup. Now I could get sick of eating soup every day. So maybe I take some of the soup and I add some noodles and I add some tomatoes and I add some basil and I add some spices to make it Italian. And I start to make like a minestrone or like a pasta sauce almost. And I can even add a little bit of coconut milk to make it creamy, like a creamy pasta sauce. And then the day after that, I could go back to the soup pot again, which is plain. I could scoop out a portion and I could add some flavors like turmeric and ginger and cardamom and cinnamon and curry and make it into, and add some lentils and make it into an Indian curry dish. So in one day of creating that soup, I can then create meals for the week. I just change the flavor. So this is how a good weekly meal plan happens, is you create staples and then make them plain. And then over the course of the meals, just twist those flavors like my dad taught me how to do. Okay, so now the next step of that process is to preserve according to your goals. So you pulled everything out of the fridge, you took and you created your meal plan for the week, and now you're going to take whatever's left over, plus you're going to look at whatever your preservation goals are for the year, and you're going to preserve a little bit of food that week. So you're going to can, you're going to freeze, you're going to dehydrate, you're going to quick pickle, you're going to ferment, you're going to cure, you're going to do whatever preservation technique that you need to do so that you have a little bit of food that you're going to stock for later. So you're always stocking your shelves a little bit each week. And we didn't talk about curing and storing today. This is what you do with things like winter squash, onions, garlic, sweet potatoes, and even beets and carrots. These are things that all you need to do once you harvest them is cure them in order to store them. And if you buy them at the farmer's market, they've probably already been cured for you. All right, so the final step of your Harvest into Meals system is to create your preservation log. This goes back to my mom making things visible. So once you stock your shelves, how do you know what's there and how do you know what you've used? So you need a system that's visible. So, and you want to make sure you write on everything what you preserved and when, because you want to know when it's going to no longer be good. So every food preservation technique has a different expiration date. So what I like to do is not just write when it was made, but when I think it might expire so that I know when I need to eat it by. This is how you know how much you have on hand and what you already ate. One of the ways that I do this is I have a sheet where I create little boxes, and let's say I want to eat these foods by a certain date. Notice on the left, eat them by a certain date. What is the food? And then I basically outline a box and I say, okay, I created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarts of tomatoes. And then I check them off as I eat them so that I now know, okay, I have 5 quarts left of those 8. And this way it's visible. So now if I start to get close to the end, I know I need to make more. All right. So make things visible in your food preservation log.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And for more simple and practical gardening tips, subscribe to Grow Your Own Vegetables. For more tips and updates, visit gyov.org and join our growing community.